Hello everybody and welcome back to KSP2. I apologize for how long it took between episodes, but I had a lot of problem with this episode with the editing. I edited a bunch of it, and then eventually I moved a folder somewhere and that unlinked all my media. Long story short, I lost about 2/3 of the footage of this episode. So I apologize, but we won't see the unlocking of the science that we did, the getting of the mission that we're about to do, the building of the craft, the exiting of leaving Kervin's sphere of influence, or even the mission to get into Eve's. But hey, we're here at Eve, everybody. I'm so sorry, but this was such a good mission. I mean, I could have skipped it and just gone to the next one that we did, but this was a very important mission for me. I decided I wanted to do something fun, kind of goofy, and I decided to recreate the classic movie The Martian, starring Matt Damon, and but we're gonna do it in reverse. We're gonna get him out of here. We found a Kerbal that looked just so great, such a good Matt Damon look. It was hilarious because I'm like, which one am I gonna pick? And then I scrolled down to the bottom. I'm like, oh yes, you are him. It was very fun, but I apologize. I couldn't even salvage the footage to put it as like a members only thing or anything. Like, I can't. All of that's gone, and I feel really sorry about that. But the goal here is to land this Kerbal on Gilly, and we are intentionally leaving him there. We'll probably end up doing a rescue mission for most of the Kerbals before we end our series, if we can, because we're actually getting pretty close to that. We are almost done with the main story quest. Then it's just a matter of unlocking the more advanced science nodes, because I'd like to see all the different parts here. But here we are, lowering our periapsis over Eve. We are actually first going to spend time trying to land on Eve, because I really wanted to hear the soundtrack. I just eyeballed my lander. I wasn't planning on landing on Eve, so this is not really meant. It does have a heat shield, because I just, I wanted to prepare myself for anything. I knew that Eve had an atmosphere, but I wasn't sure about Gilly or anything like that. But we have enough Delta V to circularize, so that's good. Not too much after that, but if we're landing, we shouldn't need too much. I did not prep for this part of the mission, and I will say now that it does not go smoothly, but we're going to go ahead and show the footage anyways. I wanted to, I had some fun with it, and it was kind of interesting to hear the Eve soundtrack for the first time. Duna still takes the cake, I gotta say. This is very nice. So we're just going to slow things down a little bit, hang out above Eve, circularize, and then we'll go from there. I've never been to Eve, even in KSP1, even through the cheats, and, sometimes, like, I visited Jewel to see what Jewel looked like, and I visited Duna long before I made it there initially, because, I wanted to just kind of see what some of the planets looked like with parallax or with volumetric clouds. I wanted to see what was new, but I never went to Eve. Like, I have literally never put any of my crafts down. I have physically not seen the atmosphere, so I kind of wanted to, even though I knew that this probably wouldn't work out. I definitely didn't design it correctly, and I certainly didn't fly it correctly. I'll tell you that much. It might have worked out if I had been a little bit better at doing what I was supposed to do, but I just, I got excited and forgot myself, so. But getting ahead of myself. We'll get there soon enough. Let's just close this orbit and settle down. As I do this, I do kind of want to talk a little bit about KSP2. Recently, I saw that it went on sale on Steam. It's, I believe, 10% off, or depending on your location, it might be different. But I just want to speak on the subject that I am having a lot of fun with KSP2. I am doing a lot of cool things, and I'm a big proponent of there's still stuff to do in the game. The game isn't considered dead because look at all the stuff that we're doing and all we have left to do. However, I would not recommend purchasing it unless it is something you actually absolutely want to do. You're okay with the fact that there are bugs. You're okay with the fact that those bugs will never be fixed unless a helpful modder decides to pick up the torch on that. But this was an early access game that was basically canceled, so I can't in good conscience recommend buying this. Even though it is on sale, I do want to just say, use caution, player discretion advised. I am having a lot of fun with this, but it's also the fact that I already had this. I owned this for a while before I even got the chance to play it. And once I got the chance to play it, that's when the For Science update came out, and it was pretty much widely agreed upon that it was mostly playable at that point. So I was very excited to get started, and so far it has been mostly playable. I've run into a few bugs, but nothing that quitting the game and reloading hasn't fixed. I ran into a couple bugs with fairings, but I just decided to redesign my ship to not have fairings. I just don't go full speed through the atmosphere, and it did pretty well. I'm trying to make it so I don't instantly come into Eve's atmosphere because I'm not ready to land yet. I want to choose which place I want to go. But yeah, that's kind of all I really wanted to say on the subject matter. I just, my stance has always been that you can find fun in things, but if you're not having fun, then you shouldn't do it. And if other people are having fun, then you should let them have their fun as well. And I'm really glad this series has been doing really well. So thank you so much for watching and all the support, all the likes, the comments. I really appreciate that. I try to answer as many as I can. If you don't get an answer from me, it's reasons of one of two things. It's either I'm trying to find the best thing to think about, the best kind of response. I want to really think about your comment and answer it. And then sometimes your comments just make me smile so much. I like having them on my main page when I look at my YouTube. So, but I'll be better at answering those ones as well. Beautiful surface. Look at that. Between this episode and the last, I turned down significantly the UI noises and the Kerbal chatter, and even some of the engine noises, and a little bit of the ambient stuff. So most of what you'll be hearing from now on will be the music, which is excellent. That's kind of what I wanted before. It's been a little bit difficult doing this series as something that I'm not used to. I typically just play with no music at all and add the music later in, as KSP1's music doesn't quite lend to the style of video that I'm trying to do. But KSP2, since they put so much effort into the soundtrack, I feel like it would be kind of a waste of one of the best parts of this game not to utilize it. So I changed around the sounds. You can do so in the settings if you find your game is like the Kerbal that says you're about to ignite your engines right before you do your maneuver. Every single time that Kerbal chatters, and so you can turn that down, you can turn that off if you want. When we do our next series, I will be turning that off completely. I may even turn off UI sounds and just focus on the flights and stuff. I found the chatter fun at first, and I love the chatter mod in KSP1, but having them chatter basically only at specific parts was nice, but it got old, so I think I will change that for the next season. But yeah, the music, that's where it's at. You can tell how little I knew of Eve because I was trying to, after our Jewel mission, I was trying to do a color coding of the rocket to match the planet that we were going to. And I think I was definitely thinking of Lathe because of the blue waters and green landmass. Definitely not Eve. And for a moment, it looks like there's lights down there, almost like civilization. But then I realized it's just a reflection of the sun. But then I realized, wow, that's the reflection of the sun. That's pretty cool. You can see it from all the way up here. So we're just going to come around the dark side of the planet and maneuver back into the sunlight before we do anything else. Go ahead and warp to our apoapsis and get ready to bring in our landing burn. And I'm leaving most of this episode unedited, at least the footage that you're seeing now. I edited a lot of earlier, but I'm leaving the mission part mostly unedited because it's just nice to hear the music completely instead of cutting to different parts of the song, as I made cuts to different parts of the video. But you guys don't need to know that. That's a little peek behind the editing curtain there, but yeah, sometimes it's better to just let something sit. So we're going to try to slow ourselves down as much as we can. We use the last of our fuel of our side boosters and jettison them a little bit dangerously. They could have really hurt ourselves. And then we start seeing our heat gauge, so time to start doing the spin. I should have launched at a lower angle. I should have had my apoapsis much lower to begin with, because I'm coming in at almost 3 kilometers a second, and that is way too fast. I start spinning, but the heat gauge still keeps climbing and climbing, and it doesn't look like we're going to have much of a chance of landing. I try to brake as much as possible, but there's nothing we can do. So I flip it over, and we explode. Oh yeah, here's our Dr. Mark Watney. Get him out of here. Alright, so we're going to reload our save from when we entered Eve's sphere of influence. And we are going to just avoid the Eve landing entirely. We'll send another craft up there. We'll do some research, figure out the best way to actually land on Eve, because come to think of it, I think it's a lot harder than most of the other planets, and I think I remember seeing people ask about why their craft wasn't landing correctly, so maybe I will take a stab at that at another time. But for now, let's target Gilly and try to get an intercept from it. Gilly has a very low atmosphere, or low gravity well, and so it can be a little bit tricky to get caught up in that. And it's also very heavily inclined, so we're going to have to match its inclination or get lucky with something else. So as we see here, we have a brief encounter, but it just does nothing to actually capture us. It just launches us out of the sphere of influence entirely. But I didn't like the angle that we were coming in on that. I think it would take way too much delta V to circularize and adjust our plane, so we're going to go for circularizing around Eve first, which is good because I can't remember if it's circularizing around Eve or if it was just entering the sphere of influence. It might just be entering the sphere of influence. Either way, we're going to be doing 2 missions today, one of which, if it is entering sphere of influence, well, there we go. We got it. And if not, if it's orbiting, well, we're going to do that now. And then the other one is, of course, to explore Gilly as well. So this Kerbal, even though, you know, he ate all the snacks in the break room and scuffed scuffed Bill's equipment, stepped on Jeb's foot, and, well, he was alright with Val. Val and him were always cool, but he was just such a nuisance that we just gotta get him out of here. So here we are, just ever so delicately just trying to adjust our momentum until we get an encounter, and we got one. Once again, we are at a weird angle, so we are not going to be coming in the best way, but it is an intercept. 40 kilometers above the surface, that should be more than adequate to avoid any mountain regions. I don't think Gilly is very tall in altitude. So let's go ahead and plot that maneuver into K2D2. In an upcoming episode, I start running into a lot of problems with K2D2. It possibly could be because of updates and things like that. I'm not sure, but it hadn't been as accurate as it had been before. So we're going to start probably flying by hand more often. It's just hard to argue with an automatic shutoff for your burn, so you don't have to worry about not paying attention. Well, I don't have to worry about not paying attention. You guys probably pay attention all the time, but when it comes to Kerbal, sometimes it's easy to get distracted. So this is going to be a relatively long burn, but I believe the music starts swelling up as we start getting closer to stuff, so and kind of let it sit. Is my thrust limited? I didn't think about that before. This is because it's such a long burn, but maybe my thrust was limited. I guess we'll figure it out later. But I was very excited to start doing these missions, and it's been interesting to notice that I have made more progress going interplanetary in KSP2 than I have in any of my other series. Now, it's true that I would play with things like remote tech, like KXP right now has remote tech, so unless we just want to send a Kerbal in a tin can and just launch him over to Duna, we're going to need a satellite network up there, we're going to need land probes, we're going to need to do all sorts of things. So it does take a lot longer to go interplanetary in those series, but it was really cool the way that this game just kind of encourages you to go out there and explore more, and then once you've made your first interplanetary, it becomes a whole lot easier. Now, true, I think KSP2 should or could benefit from a transfer window planner of sorts, instead of, because currently as it was, I just, had to look up online for a visual of when the best time to leave Kerbin to get to any of these planets. So hopefully that comes. But yeah, our burn is almost done. We are coming in a lot more quickly. And here we are. We are now in orbit of Eve with an intercept of Gilly. Except that we aren't, because we still had more Delta V to burn in that stage, and I canceled it early for some reason. I'm not sure how that happened. It seemed like our engines had ran out of fuel, but they didn't actually, so I think that might be where the start of my problems with K2D2 started to come in. So we're going to just readjust it. There we go. We have our intercept. And it's not going to take very much delta V at all, so that's nice. And because it's not going to take very much delta V at all, we are actually going to deactivate all of our side boosters and leave only the center booster. And we're going to turn down its thrust. So yeah, I guess the thrust wasn't limited at all. So that was just a long burn. That's how it goes. All right. So now we are only working with our center engine, and we're going to do. It's going to be a longer burn than we had planned before, but it will be more accurate because it's not going so quickly. So we align ourselves up to the maneuver node. K2D2 automatically time warps close to it and gets ready to handle the burn. And there we go. That's the 65 delta V, 60 some odd delta V right there. So we could have done that at full throttle, and that probably would have taken us like 0 point some odd number of a second. And there's a chance that we could have just overshot instantly. So sometimes when you're dealing with small amount of delta V or very short burns, it's good to lower your thrust. So here we are. We now have an encounter with Gilly, but it's actually more of an impact because didn't exactly plot in the maneuver that I had set. So instead, we are just coming in fast. It's not good. In case you didn't know that, that is not the plan. We didn't like this Kerbal, Hanny, but you know, certainly, you know, he didn't deserve to smack into a desolate moon. Just to live on the desolate moon for indefinitely, that's all. So there we go. We bring our periapsis as low as we can feel comfortable with. 8,079 meters. Let's go ahead and put our engines back, or put the center engine back to limited thrust. Oh, maybe that's why. That's probably why it turned into an impact. No, we limited thrust before, so I don't know. It's a little funky sometimes. Oftentimes I'm using this footage to learn a little bit more and see what I did correctly, see what I did incorrectly. So apologies about the kind of off-the-cuff thoughts about some of these things, but it helps me kind of think about it. And talking about it, and talking to y'all about it, makes me realize certain things that I did correctly, certain things I did incorrectly. So I hope you don't mind it. If it's not your thing, if you'd rather me just focus strictly on the mission, then let me know. But yeah, so we tiny amount of delta V. We just need to change it a little bit. And that's what I was kind of talking about with Gilly's low sphere of influence, is that just a little bit too much momentum and you'll completely miss it entirely. You have a very small window of a good intercept there. So I don't know why it canceled early again. We definitely still have fuel in our tanks. Yeah, it's weird. So we're just going to change our trajectory once we reach the sphere of influence instead. Trying to do it out here, it's just been proving a challenge, so Let's just warp until we connect, and then we will plot our emergency avoidance maneuver there. And we're going to have to do it quick. We don't have a lot of time. We are heading pretty fast. Not as fast as we did with Eve. We're only 279 meters per second. At Eve, we're going 3 kilometers, I believe. So yeah, 3,000. A lot faster. A lot more dangerous. So let's go ahead and give it a little bit of a radial out. And as you can see there, Gilly, like, doesn't bend our trajectory in the slightest. There's, like, no gravitational influence on that. It was very weird. It was almost challenging with how low of a gravity it was. I was expecting it to be like, oh, Minmus is really nice because it's got low gravity, and so it should be easy like Minmus. But nope, challenge, nice, appreciated. So let's adjust our thrust limiter, and we're gonna need to turn on our other side boosters eventually. But for now, while we just kind of prevent the impact, we're going to just use our center once again. 11 Delta V. We have over 1,000. So it's looking pretty good. It's looking like we'll be able to land without a problem, as long as we don't give ourselves unnecessary problems. And there we go. We are no longer in danger of impact. Well, I'd say now we're no longer in danger of impact. I think now we are above the minimum safe altitude. So there we go. So now let's plot in a capture burn right at the periapsis. We are a little too fast. We are doing a lot better than I had ever anticipated. Once you really start learning the orbital mechanics, things become a lot easier and a lot more fun, I would say. I may be talking a little less as we come in for our burn and for our landing, because the Gilly soundtrack was pretty good. I feel like I've heard it. I feel like it was one of the moons of another planet. I could be wrong. Do each celestial body have its distinct own soundtrack, or is it based on the celestial body, and so the planetary body, and so the moons have their own thing? I don't know. Either way, I love it. Love how rocky it is, that they didn't just make every single moon just spherical and, you know, just with some craters in it. They actually gave these things depth. So very realistic. And I mean, they did this in KSP1 as well. I just appreciate it. And just like that, we are circularized. Actually, we are more than circularized. See what I mean? Like, just having all 5 of my engines going was probably way too much power. And I see here the landing node is not quite good. It does not like the shape of the moon. It wants it to be spherical, so it's not going to give me a good idea of where I'm going to be landing on Gilly. So we will have to kind of play this by ear, fly by the seat of our pants as we go. So I just tap on throttle just ever so slightly for just a second, and we almost get back in orbit. You could probably orbit with a RCS pack, come to think of it. Like, if you just got enough speed going forward. Yep, 5 Delta V, and that will put us on a much better trajectory. So we're going to point towards our maneuver and get ready to burn. And while we do, we're going to listen to this soundtrack. It's only allowing me to time warp 3 times as fast, which is very slow, given how long it was taking us to ascend. So I decided I'm just going to use my engines. We're going to just burn this manually, because we are ascending quite high in order to fall right back down. Let's go ahead and do some science while we can. Most of the science that we're going to have is, unfortunately, science that we have to recover. We don't have very much that we can transmit. I still hadn't gotten used to that concept with the Science Junior. With any of the science in KSP2, the fact that certain things can't be transmitted, so... Here we are, we're going to point ourselves retrograde, which is going to point our nose back down at the planet. We are actually going to try to lower our apoapsis by burning towards the planet. And we are only going at 16 meters per second and dropping, so this is only going to get slower and more mind-numbing. So we're going to adjust that soon. But for now, we'll just listen more. And we're only ascending at 15.5 meters per second. Very slowly. Sometimes I wish you could adjust or override the time warp controls. Like, if I feel comfortable enough going at 4 times time warp, I should allow to do it. So, rather than waiting, we are just going to burn towards the surface, which is going to bring our trajectory downwards. We basically killed out all of our vertical momentum. We are dropping at 0.9 meters per second. Very safely, very slowly. And Hanny should be quite happy with the landing location that he has, because I believe that we are in a crater. Seemed relatively flat from the map view. Anyways, let's get ourselves ready for landing. And this footage has been unedited since we reloaded the save and came back into Eve's Sphere of Influence and all that. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I have not hit the quick save button this entire time. I did not pay attention to that fact, and so I will be playing very dangerously right now. I didn't quick save, quick load very much in KSP1 in any of my series because I would typically live with the consequences, but it is important to quick save in KSP2. Like the bugs that I mentioned beforehand, quick loading can sometimes save that. So yeah, didn't do that. And now I'm going to point my nose towards the planet and burn, because that is extra safe. But we are falling at 3.7 meters per second, and this is just taking forever. So we are going to be a little impatient, give ourselves momentum that we're going to have to clear out when we're done anyways. Not too much, but enough to just start building up some momentum to fall a little bit quicker. After all, we only have so much time in these episodes, and I'd like to make it successful. I don't like leaving an episode with a mission undone, or incomplete, unfinished. All those words. So sometimes these episodes may be a little bit longer, especially the later into the series as we go and we do more complicated things. But I think I feel a lot better than having like a part 1 and a part 2 for this. But yeah, even all that footage that was supposed to come before what we ended up having in this episode, the build sequence, the launch sequence, interplanetary, all that stuff, that still took up like almost 20 minutes. And so this would have been a very, very long episode. Speaking of which, just as another reminder, we now have a membership aspect to our channel. There's a join button below the video where you can join for a monthly fee, get access to early access stuff, and the next thing that we're going to be putting up is the full mission and testing footage for our next KXP, and it's another IVA mode thing, so it's very interesting. So if that's something that you're interested in, also one of our tiers allows you to pick some music for us to use, so if you enjoy the music aspect of our episodes, you can be kind of like a little music producer for it. And so yeah, if you're interested, check it out. So the music quells, and we just drift down again, almost 30 meters per second. But yeah, as you see here, we are coming in at a crater and kind of in the bottom flattish area of it, so I'm pretty happy with that. We might have a slight slope, but at least from first visuals, it looks good. Oh, there's Eve. So ever so safely, ever so gracefully, ever so carefully, Hanny decides to straighten out his craft and get ready for the last burn. There is a tremendous thrust to weight ratio on Gilly with this craft that he has, so it probably would have behooved us to limited the thrust even more, but nonetheless we have a pretty easy way to cancel out our momentum, so we don't actually technically have to burn until we really are right about at the surface, but we don't mind wasting a little fuel. We don't have too much of a use for it once we land anyways. One thing I really enjoy about the KSP2 game, look at the little landing legs, the actual legs of themselves, the feet, or not the legs, the feet. As you see here, they don't change. Yes. Yeah, I know they're landing legs, but the legs have feet as well. But it's not showing it just yet, but as we fix ourselves, also, A+ landing. Yeah, you see how they straighten out, and they have some movement to them, makes them flat. It's not as noticeable on Gilly because it's not, the moon is not trying to hold the rocket to it in any sort of way, but I like that. It's just a tiny little detail that I really enjoyed. And that foot is just going to point itself out. But yeah, we have landed on Gilly. We successfully got Hanny Kerman out of the office, out of the planet, out of the sphere of influence. And he is now going to make his home on this desolate rock. And yeah, hopefully have a good time. So let's first go back to our mission control and accept the science that we get for completing entering Eve's sphere of influence. It was enter the sphere of influence, which is nice, so we did it immediately. And then we also have to perform an environment survey experiment at the oblique impact site, which is interesting because I didn't read that mission. We didn't have option to take that mission until we actually completed the Eve one, and we somehow landed in the exact spot that we needed to. So yeah, oddly enough, I don't know how it worked out that way, but it just did. So yeah, RCS is extremely powerful on Gilly. So that's why I'm thinking maybe we'll come back to Hanny Kerman and we'll see if we can get him into orbit with RCS alone. So now, with only a little bit more time left in the episode, we are going to get our new stranded Kerbal out, do some science that he'll never be able to turn in, take a crew observation report that no one will ever hear, and plant a flag that only he will see. But it'll be a good time. He's got his music in there. He's got all the snacks he needs. He'll be just fine. He lets us know everything he sees, and nobody is in the mission control room to hear the message. He's quite tired. It was a long trip. He's gonna get himself loaded back in and have a good night. Let's get our flag down. Thankfully, it is the correct flag, the Kraken flag. That's the flag of our agency. But sometimes there's a glitch where it just does the standard KSP2 flag. So, quick jump puts me very, very high. So let's go ahead and use our RCS to bring ourselves back down. Take one last look around. I was hoping that we would be able to see Eve cresting over that hill, but not the case. Does a little acrobatic observation report because there's all the time in the world to land. I like the new observation report, the fact that they do a backflip. It's fun. It's challenging, though. You can't just, like, jump up in the air, press the button, and then land, and there's your observation. You have to allow the full backflip to complete. Very interesting. In planets with thicker atmospheres, I'd imagine you have to, like, drop them off as you descend, let them do their backflip as they plummet to the ground, and then get them a parachute to bring them home safely. Or bring them down safely, anyways. I don't know how you would do that. Maybe we'll try it. I'm thinking I might try just doing some off-episode challenge things. Just play around in KSP2, see if I can make a goal to achieve something and just, do a small little side goal. I don't know if I'll be doing it on this playthrough because I think I want to make sure to keep my Let's Play series intact and make sure I don't ruin anything. I don't visit planets that we haven't been to yet. I don't make achievements that we haven't gotten yet or stuff. But I'm not sure. I'm also thinking about just bringing up a second instance of KSP2 and get started for the next series to see how the mods will work together. And I will let you know that. And if I can get something nice and stable and interesting, then I will definitely share that with y'all. But anyways, that is the end of this episode, and I am excited to move on to the next one. We are going to be taking on the last Tylo monument, or the last monument on Tylo in the next episode, so I hope you're looking forward for that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward for the next KSP2. If you did, please consider giving me a like, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.